$100,000 is truly a magical mark, financially speaking. And it's something that I've realized as I've reached past that point in financial assets at this point. There's 4 major mistakes that I made that kept me from getting there sooner. And for context, I'm in my mid-30s, so it's not a situation where I'm like borderline at retirement and I'm about to fail. But given the circumstances, once you get to a certain point, you get a rhythm going and you start to figure out what you're doing right. You look back and say, damn, I could have did things a little differently and been here sooner. It's not necessarily a scenario of regrets, but I'm gonna give you 4 significant life lessons and financial lessons that will be timeless in you being able to get to the $100,000 benchmark, $250,000, $500,000, whatever that next benchmark is for you financially, where your assets truly start to compound at a rapid pace. Number 1 out of the 4 is gonna be a lack of patience. Serious lack of patience. I didn't come from anywhere near a structured financial background or anything to that extent. I had good parents, whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, money just wasn't their thing and I wasn't raised around it at all. So, being younger, a lot of things we're impatient about. Like we have a hard time waiting for results, like consistently committing certain actions and waiting for the results to take place. We have a hard time with that if we're not taught it at an early age. And that was a serious thing for me financially early on. I had great work ethic and I actually was a great saver. My problem is I constantly wanted to make these big power moves. Like I didn't want to wait for things to blossom and grow. As soon as I got my hands on 5,000 saved, 10,000 saved, 15,000 saved, I was trying to put it into something and like double my money or flip my money. I was impatient. In the meantime, months would pass by, years would pass by, and none of these things would work and the money's gone. The effort is gone. I got life lessons out of it. Like I learned a lot, but there was no monetary value to be had. A serious lack of patience cost me a lot because during this time frame, to give you some context on the timeline, my working years really kicked in. I started working like soon as I, got of age and got out of, high school, whatever the case may be. But, I really started to get somewhat into a career or a rhythm around like 2010 or 11. If I had just simply invested in the stock market during that time frame and the money I was saving at the time, literally I was saving 4 figures a month, at different ratios because I had a sales related job and I was doing pretty good. So I might have $1,000, $2,000, $1,500, $2,000 in savings that I can put up. Had I had the education, understanding, or the guidance, I could have put that in at those time frames. And if you think about the economic circumstances in 2010, it was right at the very bottom before the bull run in the stock market and other assets started to take off. And it was like you couldn't miss as time went on through the 2010s. Like 2010 to 2020, it was hard not to become financially successful if you stayed in the right assets. Had I had that guidance at the time, I probably could have hit over $100,000 in a single financial asset like the stock market or a retirement account in a year, 2 years, 3 years time, because I was saving 4 figures a month. You're getting contributions, it's compounded at the same time. So that was my number 1 mistake. I had a serious lack of patience due to a lack of guidance, being young, being eager, and thinking that I had to hit a lick to make that kind of progress. That was number 1. Number 2 is inconsistency. I didn't actually stay invested into a financial asset like a retirement account or a stock portfolio until, honestly speaking, like without disturbing it, really the last like 4 or 5 years or so, to be completely honest. I got in and out. Like I would start a 401k, but then I might not consistently contribute to it over time. Or if I switched jobs, I wouldn't get right back on it or make sure it was rolled over properly. So I disturbed my investments a lot. I disturbed my savings and investments a lot in my younger years because again, life is throwing everything at you that it's throwing. There's always that curveball that comes around and, those things become easier to deal with once you have a life experience and you have your resources and system and processes in place. But at this time, we talking early to mid 20s, life throws a thumbtack in the middle of the road and you flatten out for your tires some kind of way. So that was a huge lesson I look back on and realize as I reflect, going into a new year relatively soon at the time of this recording. I had a hard time with consistency. I'm constantly trying to hit licks when I finally save up some money, and I was a great saver, but if life was throwing something at me that would, take that money before I can deploy it properly, or, me being overzealous and rambunctious, having a hard time, staying consistent with a particular strategy because I didn't really know what worked at the time. Number 3 for me is going to be not leveraging the resources that were around me that could have provided me guidance and could have saved me a lot of time and energy with trying things. There was a lot of people around me that were doing relatively well, that were ahead of the curve. Some of them were privileged, some of them had worked their way there, but But either way, there was a lot that could have been learned. And I didn't lean on people around me enough. People saw things in me. Like, they always would talk to me and see that I was like not the average person around mindset when it came to like saving and work ethic, etc. But I was real bullheaded, and I wasn't a good listener. I wasn't somebody that knew how to take coaching or take advice when it was coming to me. And, it cost me. It cost me because, I had people who told me, don't make this move, stay with this, do this. I'll never forget a particular individual that really impacted me. It was just a very brief set of encounters with this person. I don't know his situation or where he's at now, but, I'm just going to call him Mr. Pickle. His last name was Mr. Pickle. I'm not going to give his full name just in case, how the internet is. But very successful older gentleman. And I'm talking about like 8 figures, probably a more successful, like started an accounting firm and sold it off for 8 figures. I think he had a foot in like some security company as well. Like, he's a really successful individual. I'm in banking at the time. He was like, I stopped being client. I'm not like I managed his assets because I wasn't that far up the food chain. But, I was somebody that he would work with, from time to time. Really nice guy, humble. And, I think he saw something in me, and he would talk to me when we did connect, when we did sit down, and he would tell me, I would be in conversation telling him about the different things that I was interested in doing. And at that time, I think I was trying to get into software programming or like Cisco systems or something like that. And mind you, like it's 2010, 11 or 12. Well, no, I'm going to say 2011, 12 or 13. The economy's recovered, like the financial sector is doing well. And I'm in banking at a pretty early age. In my early 20s, I'm licensed with FINRA at the time. I got my foot in the door with mortgage lending. I didn't have a license at the time, but I had an MLS registration, etc., assurance license. I was somebody who was in position to do well had I known what I was doing, what I had in front of me. And Mr. Pickle would tell me, I have a specific conversation. I'm telling him I'm really interested in getting into like tech and software programming, etc., etc., etc. And he looks at me and he's like, don't do that. Don't do that. This is an 8-figure, 50-plus-year-old, very successful, built companies, sold companies. He's like, stay in the financial sector, stay in the banking sector, stay focused on what you're doing, like you're in the right place, basically, is what he tells me. And I kind of take it in, but I don't take it in. And lo and behold, a couple years later, life throws me some curveballs and I make some poor decisions on top of that. And I end up making a decision to leave the banking sector like early 2015. And that started a huge turbulence in my life. It was about 2014 to 2016, darkest years of my life, hands down. Personal life, love life, financial life, you name it, it was terrible. So I didn't listen. And so that was just an example I want to give you of somebody who, at different scenarios, and there's tons of those I can give you. But for a long time, of people seeing that potential in me and me just not being open and receptive to understanding when real information, when messages are being sent to me. Stay focused. Leverage those resources as well as free material resources. I worked in the banking sector and really didn't dive in or study and understand the things that I should have studied and understood at that time. I was working for a really sizable financial institution that offered a ton of free resources to us as employees, that financial resources, guidance, free financial coaching. I didn't touch it. I didn't touch most of that stuff at the time. I kept looking for these magical, mythical financial opportunities, and I didn't listen to people who had more experience than me and that had bigger and broader vision than I did, and it cost me. The last out of those, 4 that I would say is combining those first 3 and not going hard enough, even though I worked my ass off. I didn't stay on my grind when it came to the resources I was bringing in and making sure they stayed deployed in some financial assets. So I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3 constantly. Like I still do multiple things right now, but I'm at a more stable point in my career where I'm able to focus more in on my business and focus more on my corporate career. I had a hard time with, like, I would work my ass off and I wouldn't really pile that money into the things that I could have at the time. Like, I really didn't go hard about look, I'm going to contribute the most I can put into my retirement account. I don't, literally what they legally allow me to put in, I'm going to max it out, or even if it was just my savings account, even if I didn't have somewhere to deploy it, I didn't stay consistent with that. I stopped saving. And so I would just be working my ass off, paying for bills, handling life's curves that it would throw at me, trying to take care of the people, and didn't really stay bullish about my goals and my focus points. I didn't do that. That was something I really lost track of, was going hard, really going hard about, I'm gonna go out here and work overtime. I'm gonna go out here and work this second job, this gig work, whatever it is I'm going out here and do, and this money is going straight into this, and that's all I'm focused on until I hit this certain point. I didn't do that. For a long time, I didn't do that. It wasn't until about 2018 that I had went through the worst phases of my life, my adult life at that time. And I started to make those kind of moves and decisions, and that's gotten me where I am right now. I'm not going to get into this very specifics at this particular point in time, but I'm over the 100,000 threshold in financial assets. And when I say that, I'm talking about retirement account stocks, my ownership in real estate, equity-wise. I'm talking about a pretty reasonable precious metals portfolio. Like collectively, I'm significantly over that mark. And I'm not sitting up here saying I'm wealthy or what. This is really just the beginning. But I know so many of us are really in that position where we work our ass off. We work multiple jobs. We've been working for years and we don't have anywhere near that to show for it. So I'm hoping that this is one of those timeless videos that can get through to as many of you who are fit in this bucket, that really work hard, that are good people, just not making the best decisions and don't have like anywhere near a clear direction, or at least don't understand the mistakes that you're making, that this can get through to as many of you as possible. Because I'm telling you, it's doable. If you stay focused and consistent, just since I've gotten my hat back on, I've gotten really to that 100,000, near that 100,000 mark in just one of my retirement accounts that I just started a handful of years ago, like a few years ago. That's just one avenue. That's not some of the other things that I've had going on. And I'm taking a lot of risk, by the way. I'm investing a lot of money into the things that I'm working on business-wise and betting on myself. So I'm not putting up nearly what I could be putting up, like nearly. I also have, 2 kids I'm taking care of and deeply investing in as well, and they cost the arm and a leg. So I'm just giving you guys some personal insights and context of somebody who's genuinely gotten over that $100,000 mark, nearly in a couple different spots, and working well beyond that going forward. And things that you may be doing that I did in the past that were wrong, and hopefully I'm catching you earlier in your journey, giving you these life lessons, telling you these things you're doing wrong. Hopefully one of those 4 resonated with you, or all 4 resonated with you, and you can make a pivot and save yourself some years and some frustration. Comment down below. Let me know where you at with your your net worth or your asset, your portfolios. Let me know out of those 4, which one resonated with you the most, that you're dealing with now or recently got over in the past. Drop it in the comment section below. To all my pioneers, welcome back. To my new viewers, welcome in. As always, I want each and every one of you to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon. This is my blueprint for financial empowerment and self-sufficiency. This is my blueprint for optimal health and body mastery. This is my blueprint for mental, physical, and spiritual momentum. This is my blueprint for prosperity.